Okay, so pretty much everyone knows and loves the How to Train Your Dragon movies, right? They're an absolute modern classic. That incredible story of a boy and his dragon it got everybody. But what if I told you that the story you know from the big screen is totally different from the original, and that the real Toothless is a character you've probably never even met?
Seriously, just picture the Toothless you know and love. That sleek, powerful, jet black Night Fury. The one that's supposed to be the most legendary and terrifying dragon out there. Got that image in your head? Good. Now just hold on to that thought, because we're about to dive into the story's hidden origins, and you're going to meet a very, very different kind of dragon.
All right, section one, the film you know, a modern classic. So to really get a grip on how different these two versions are, let's first just quickly recap what we're all familiar with, the movie version that was a massive, massive hit.
Right, so the movies, they're this classic coming-of-age story, a Bildungsroman, as it's called. We watch Hiccup go from this kind of awkward teenager all the way to becoming the respected chief of Berk. But the real heart of it all, of course, is that bond between him and Toothless, the legendary Night Fury. They become what one critic perfectly called glorious codependents. They really do mirror each other's strengths and weaknesses. It's just an epic, beautiful story.
But here's the thing. That whole epic tale, it's an adaptation. It's based on a series of books by Cressida Cowell. And when people say the books are vastly different, believe me, they are not kidding. We're talking the core of the story, the characters, and especially the dragon. You'd barely recognize them. Okay, let's do this. Section 2, the books you don't, the story you never knew. It's time to pull back the curtain on the world that Cressida Cowell actually created, the version of the story that most movie fans have completely missed out on. All right, get ready for this, because this is probably the single biggest shock for fans of the movies. The Toothless in the books? He's not a Night Fury. Not even close. He is a common or garden dragon. He's described as being tiny, green, completely toothless, and super grumpy. But the biggest difference of all? You ready? He talks. Yeah, he's this cranky, hilarious, and very, very talkative sidekick. And that one detail, the fact that he can talk, it changes everything. See, in the books, Hiccup's big special talent isn't being a great inventor. It's that he can speak Dragones, the language of the dragons, and that completely flips the story on its head. His whole journey isn't about taming some powerful beast. It's about understanding, about communication. It's about choosing to connect with someone instead of just using brute force like all the other Vikings. And forget a trilogy, the book series is a massive 12-book saga that was published over 12 years. This super long format means the story gets to be way bigger. We follow Hiccup from when he's just a little kid all the way to him becoming the king of the Wilder West. He's fighting these huge enemies, dealing with a full-on dragon rebellion. I mean, the scope of it is just immense. So, okay, part 3, 2 heroes, 2 journeys. With a totally different dragon and a completely different theme, you can probably guess that the rest of the characters are different too, right? So let's take a look at who's hanging around in these 2 very different versions of Berk. All right, let's break this down. So Astrid, right, Hiccup's awesome, fierce love interest from the movies? Well, she doesn't exist in the books at all. Her role is kind of filled by this character named Kamikaze, who's this super mischievous heir to a tribe of all-female warriors called the Bog Burglars. Then you've got Fishlegs, kind of a minor character in the films, right? In the books, he's Hiccup's actual best friend and a huge part of the story. And Snotlout? He's not just a rival, he's actually Hiccup's cousin, which makes things way more complicated. So here we are in section 4, brilliant in their own way. Now, at this point, you might be thinking, okay, so which one is better, the books or the movies? But honestly, that's kind of missing the point. What we really have here are 2 completely different stories that are both masterpieces in their own right. And this quote from a reviewer who came to the books after seeing the films really says it all. They said, "I love the film trilogy, and I'd heard the books are cute, if vastly different. And wow, it was adorable." You can just feel that sense of surprise, right? And then the absolute charm of discovering this whole new world. They love the books, just for totally different reasons than they love the movies.
And hey, if you need just one more reason to maybe check out the books, how about this? The audiobooks are narrated by the one and only David Tennant, and his performance is apparently legendary. People absolutely love it. One reviewer gave his narration a perfect 10 out of 10, saying it was just flawless, packed with humor and so much personality. I mean, come on. And really, this all brings us back to the main point, which this one reviewer just stated perfectly. They have not much in common. They are both brilliant in their own way. And that's it, right there. That's the takeaway. One is this visually breathtaking action epic, and the other is a super witty, charming, and sprawling fantasy adventure. Both are brilliant.
So what does this all mean for you? Well, it means the differences aren't a bad thing at all. They're actually an opportunity. If you're a fan of the movies, guess what? There's this entire 12-book universe just waiting for you to dive into. And if you're a fan of the books, you get to see this beautiful cinematic reimagining that totally stands on its own 2 feet. It's a win-win.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. We've got 2 wildly different stories, both called How to Train Your Dragon, and both are considered masterpieces by their fans. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it actually mean to adapt a story? And does an adaptation really need to be faithful to be a masterpiece?